And welcome back to the UIA Trusted Partners Podcast. On today's very special episode, I have a fellow broadcaster. In fact, I have Seth Bench, co-owner of Empty Space Studios. How are we doing today, Seth?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm happy to have a fellow broadcaster on the show. It's very, very rare that I get to have a fellow one of us on here because I think they do it on purpose. I think they say, too much broadcast talk, all that good stuff. But
can't put two of them in a room together.
I know. They can't have two of us in the same room, even the same building half the time. But no, I'm just kidding. You, for the people who don't know, Empty Space Studios, you are one of the co-owners. There's also your twin brother, Sam, and partner and other co-owner, Phil.
Correct. Yep.
Perfect. And just kind of out of curiosity, how did you guys kind of come together and form up Empty Space Studios together?
Yeah, we actually all went to school together.
Okay. Yeah.
We're all pretty much born and raised here in Omaha. We went to Creighton Prep together. We met each other. Sam and Phil met freshman year.
Gotcha.
And then they kind of introduced us, but I didn't become good friends with Phil until probably later freshman year. But we didn't have a passion for film or anything when we first started. And then we kind of got into it slowly and realized it was something that we all like to do and all had this kind of uncovered passion for. And so we did a couple short films, specifically I think our sophomore year was our first one, either our sophomore or junior year. And then in our junior year, we decided, there's got to be other people at prep that are interested in filmmaking.
Right.
Because there wasn't any filmmaking classes. The closest thing they had was broadcast journalism.
Sure.
Which is similar, but very different,
Yeah.
So we started a short film club, and we're only expecting maybe 5 or so people to join, and had like over 50.
Wow.
And so we were like, oh gosh, we should probably get learning how to do this.
Now we have to do this. Oh, man.
Yeah. So we had just some very little experience making very small short films, just with the three of us and actors at prep. We shot one at a coffee house, and it was called The Coffee House, and it was awful. But that's how you learn.
That's how you get started, though, right?
Yeah.
I still remember in broadcast school myself, I went to Northeast for college, and I did obviously the radio side of things. TV just happens to be a part of that. I remember one of our projects towards the end of the year, you have to make a music video. Oh my goodness. Talk about some of the most horrendous work you'd ever see on the planet. That is like, oof. So I'm with you. You always hate your first work.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think anybody can go back and go, no, that was a masterpiece.
Yeah. No, it's very, very rare if it ever happens.
Maybe the guy who made The Room.
Yeah.
He seemed pretty sure that was a masterpiece.
Yeah, good old Tommy.
Good old Tommy. Now, of course, we've kind of not diverted any, but gotten a little bit of background into you here. Now, for the listeners at home, how long has Empty Space Studios been around here in Omaha?
It's kind of tough to give a timeline because there's two answers. The first is officially about a little over a year.
Okay.
But we've been doing it for many, many years.
Gotcha. So official branding titles about a year-ish into it, but before that, it was just kind of buddies doing their thing.
Kind of. It was. We did a lot of weddings, and so that was kind of how we built up not even our catalog, but in order to do kind of commercial side of videography and photography, you need a lot of equipment. Yeah. And so that was allowing us to build up our equipment. And so we did weddings for, probably 4 or 5 years. Started with videography and did a couple of the first ones for free just to get our portfolio going. And then ended up doing, with photos, about 25 to 30 a year.
Wow.
Which is
impressive.
It was great, but weddings, God bless the wedding photographers and videographers out there, because it gets a little old after a while.
I could tell in your voice that you're just like, and a wedding, another wedding.
Exactly. So because they're great. You're capturing
a great
one of the best days of their life. But at the same time, it's not really what we wanted to do. Right. It paid the bills, and we were only doing it part-time then, so we still all had regular full-time jobs. So it was nice. It built up our portfolio and a lot of our equipment. Yeah. And so once we got to that point, my brother got a offer from an ad agency here in Omaha to partner with, and they would give us so much a month that allowed Sam to quit his full-time job.
That's awesome.
And to be the first one to go full-time at our company. And from then, so that was last August. And so that was like the first step into making it what it is now.
Kind of that moment of like, oh man, this is real.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, okay, well, let's dive in and do this.
Cool.
As opposed to, we'll just keep doing it on the side.
Keep messing around with it. Yeah, no,
exactly.
I love that. I love that kind of spark into it. And I think that kind of helps translate into my next question here. So obviously you guys do more than just photography these days. You do videography work. You also have marketing solutions in that field. I'm just kind of curious, before we dive too much into the videography and the photography here, how can you help implement marketing solutions for your clients before we dive way too past that?
Sure. Yeah, there's kind of two answers. One is usually we work with clients that kind of already have a marketing team.
Sure.
They just don't have the photographers or videographers.
Gotcha. So like the supplement to what they're needing.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. So they come to us and they say, we try and solve a problem that they were having, that can be solved through photo and video stuff. And so a lot of the times we just create the photo and video content for them, and they kind of do whatever they want to do with it.
Sure.
We don't really, I guess the only marketing side of the things we do is we'll create like the script for certain videos. Sure. They'll kind of give us a direction of what they want it to be, and we'll kind of they'll just give us the creative freedom to do it, what we want to do with it.
Yeah.
So other than that, so it's kind of, we do marketing, but not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
which is fair, because I wanted to kind of just allude to that just so we can clarify exactly what the listeners can expect from wanting to work with you and trying to get that expectation set.
Definitely.
Because again, script writing is nothing to scoff at or brush aside. By the way, I didn't want to go past that here, because one of the biggest things I remember in broadcast school was radio script writing and commercial script writing versus television script writing and commercial script writing in television, and how drastically different it is and how much more you have to add to that television script, so to speak, just to make people understand like what you need them to do.
Yes.
Of, hey, guy stands in corner looking left, because you're needing them to look a certain way, kind of thing. It's very silly sounding on paper, but when you're in the field and you're doing it, there's a lot of it that sometimes can be frustrating, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's there, like you said, there's a big difference between like even just feature film or short film or TV script writing than commercial script writing. But we were lucky enough to learn script writing first. And so I think, I don't know the other way around, but for us, it worked out really well to learn that first, and that translated easily into commercial, because if you can write a 2-hour film, then writing a 30-second commercial or a 2 to 5 minute profile story or something like that is a lot easier. So it's easier to go from one to the other.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of, you went literally like the opposite track I did, since I went audio route first and then you went video route first. Sure. It probably actually was a little bit easier, because that audio route's, you know how you're going to read the thing. So you have your little script written out and you know how you're going to say the words.
Yeah.
Video is harder to have somebody demonstrate what you're trying to do.
Very much.
So a lot of credit and a lot of respect for video scripting, even just on the short little 15-second reels that people may not understand how much actually goes into.
Yes.
So little shout outs there. Now, from a business standpoint, I kind of was looking on your website here. You had some really awesome statistics on there about how video and photography can impact businesses for a company. And I just kind of loved for you to kind of touch on some of that for our listeners at home.
Yeah, I think, within the digital world nowadays, it's shifted a lot. And a lot of companies who haven't used photo and video stuff before don't really understand the value that it can bring to their company. And not just with marketing, but with stuff that may be internal, or, if we do some event photography and videography. So it's a way to highlight those type of events as well. And just to bring their names further out into the community, whoever their target audience is. So it is very important, but you wouldn't really understand it if you haven't done it before. It's hard. So that's one thing we try and do, is we try and show our clients the value of it first. And then after they kind of realize that, then we try and create a plan with them to keep working with them on a retainership basis.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the end goal. But yeah, it's there's a lot of statistics. Yeah, like on the website, like it's like 90% of some employers don't understand the value of it, and stuff like that. So yeah, but definitely within everything nowadays is photo and video oriented. So it's a great market to get into if you haven't done it already, and even if you have done it, it's a great time to elevate it, because you can go around and take pictures on your phone,
of course,
and videos on your phone. And
everybody
stuff like
can
that.
be a camera guy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone has like a 4K camera in their pocket. But it's different when you get professionals in who know how to do it in a way that's not just pointing and at a certain direction and editing it together with some audio and stuff like that. So we try and bring that value.
And I think it speaks on some of your videos that are on your website. You kind of get to see a little bit of like, hey, these are some of our past projects. These are some things you can see and expect, which I think, again, for listeners at home, go check out emptySpaceStudios.com. Go look at some of these videos. If you are kind of entertaining these thoughts of, well, we need a little bit more marketing presence. We need a little bit more video presence and photography presence even. But I think diving into the video side of things first to start here, you kind of touched on some of them. You offer a very wide array of what you can offer for clients. I just want to touch on some of these. You offer corporate videos, you offer promotional videos as well as I should say, event coverage, product demos, and even brand storytelling. Now, again, that's a lot that I just rattled off for people, but I'm kind of curious just from a broadcast perspective here, which do you feel is your favorite to work on for a client or a customer, and which would you say is maybe the most overlooked video service you offer?
I think they're both the same answer.
Really?
I think it's the kind of the brand stories.
Interesting.
Because those, everyone posts, I just went to this event, or, they post like a little profile video or, little things like that. And the brand stories is where it gets really interesting because you get to know the company a lot better.
Absolutely.
And that's when like the storytelling aspect comes into it a lot too, is how can we tell that story? And usually those are about 3 to 5 minutes. How can we tell that story? And usually we interview between 2 to 5 people, something like that, some of them may be CEOs or founders, employees. We've done interns before. We've done, and within those two, we'll include like testimonials from some of their clients. And it's amazing what you can get in the interviews that you wouldn't even think of before, because we write questions and stuff. But
sure.
In those interviews, that's when the story really is told. So I love sitting with the interviews and then kind of going off track of the questions to learn more about something that they brought up. And that kind of is implemented into the video, which we didn't think it would be. And so those little moments I really like a lot. But those are also like, not a ton of companies do those.
Sure.
So they're underrated. Because when I see those on companies' websites, I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That they took the time to do that.
Because it's a nice peek behind the curtain. I think a lot of people kind of miss that a lot, especially in today's world where, we have access to everything. Technology's everywhere. Lots of people like to know how things work and how things really move in the background, so to speak. So definitely. I think those testimonials are huge.
Yes. And also it kind of makes you trust the company a little bit more.
Yeah, it makes you feel a little more open with them and a little more honest.
Yeah. If you can, like you said, if you can peek behind the curtain and see behind the scenes of kind of their operations and just the people who are behind it, it really makes it, you can kind of put a face to the name,
right? As
opposed to just the company that does whatever. It's like, it's the people that run the company that do whatever they're doing.
And it's kind of odd that we kind of mention these things because that's kind of literally the spiritual kind of essence of this program is you get to meet the person that's behind the brand name. You might see business, you might hear of things about that. We're getting to talk to the person. You get to peek behind that curtain and be that transparent conversation with people. So absolutely. I love the connection with that too, because I can very much relate because that's exactly what the idea of this show is.
Yeah, which is great.
Which I'm happy that you agree because it's one of those, I want companies like yourself, local businesses coming on. We're growing each other right here in Omaha. 100%. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Now, something that I don't want to go by the wayside here is your photography side of things. Now, kind of, again, I'm going to touch on the things that you do offer, but I do want to kind of pose that same question, which one you might think goes by the wayside or which one you may want to work more on rather than the other. Now, of course, services offered, and you can stop me if I'm wrong on any of these, is corporate headshots, product photography, event, lifestyle, architectural, and food photography as well. So again, which one do you feel kind of goes on the wayside, maybe a little unnoticed or underappreciated? And which is your favorite to really kind of capture?
That's tougher than video, I'd say.
Because photography is tough anyway, because everything's still. Everything has to be reframed if something gets moved.
Sure.
So it's kind of I'm very interested to see where you would land on that.
I'd say, I think one of the things I like to do the most is they're called lifestyle headshots. Mm-hmm. And so as opposed to normal corporate headshots where they're up just against a white or black background.
I'll do the pose for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or they'll just do their arms crossed, or they'll do, those kind of stereotypical poses for corporate photography. The lifestyle ones, which are becoming pretty popular in the past couple of years, they're just much more, you can be much more creative with them. Like for example, if this was like an office space, it'd be like somebody working at their computer.
Sure.
But you can really find creative ways to do that. And so it's much more exciting to do those than just the regular headshots, but you do need both, Yeah. So I would say those are it's probably the same answer too. Like those, I like to do those the most, but they're also kind of the more underrated. Mm-hmm. Like not everybody does them.
Right.
But the people who do them understand the value that they bring them. Right. It does the same thing where it kind of pulls back the curtain behind this person who's just, behind it, just a headshot. You're like, okay, who's that person? But with the lifestyle ones, you get a chance to see their personalities a bit more.
Yeah, I think, just a good example would be literally if you snapped a shot at me at my desk. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at me from my doorway, I've got Steins to your right lining the wall of my desk.
There you go.
I've got a big old calendar and a bunch of papers everywhere.
Yeah.
But, those papers are usually all these questions and stuff that I have prepared, and you kind of get to see a little bit how I'm working.
Exactly.
So I do like those. I think that's a really honest approach to photography as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, something that I'm curious about, because I haven't struggled with this in a while, probably since broadcast school, but I know that photography and videography is different than audio.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
I'm very curious, what's something you do to kind of help ease people into being around a camera or being in front of a camera? Because as you and I know, that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Oh, yeah.
Even with a microphone, I've had people clam up on me just by clicking a button. So I understand how difficult it can be, and it's kind of an anxiety for some people. Is that something you run into very often? And if so, how do you kind of coach them past that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something we run into all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely more with video than photo.
Sure.
Photo is, I think people are so used to having their photos taken kind of throughout their life that it's not as much of a stressor. It definitely is for some people, don't get me wrong. But video, we see that a lot more, especially when we do interviews. So we'll do interviews for a company, and one thing that we always try and do is we kind of send them a little cheat sheet that we've written up beforehand of just some things to kind of ease their mind.
Yeah.
And that seems to help. But then once we say we were interviewing you, we would sit down, and we always, I think it helps a lot too when you don't look directly at the camera.
That does help.
Because it feels like you have to get it right. Every single word you say has to be perfect. And with the videos, the way that we edit them, we cut around all the stuff that you don't want to hear.
Sure.
All the ums, the ands, the pauses, the mess
but-ums.
ups, the but-ums. Yeah, all that stuff. So that eases their mind a lot. And we just try and have a conversation with them. That's kind of that's really what we've seen relaxes them, is once maybe after the first couple questions, they really relax because it's just me and you talking, and I'm just asking questions, and I ask follow-up questions, and I don't say like, oh wow, okay, because we're doing audio too,
right?
But I try and give kind of visual feedback of that I'm listening and I'm paying attention, and I understand what she's or whatever they're saying, and then after that we always try and encourage or say how good they're doing. Like they'll do a question really well, and we'll say that was awesome,
great answer, love that.
Or even if they mess up, we say, don't worry about it. Like, we don't shoot on film anymore. It's all digital. We have plenty of time. So we try and ease their mind that way. And that seems to help a lot.
Yeah.
Photos, usually it's kind of the same like affirmation. Like you say, I'll take a couple pictures and I'll go up and show them the picture and say, because a lot of times they think they look bad. That's usually the main reason that I found that people don't like doing photography, or being in front of the cameras, because they think they look bad. So when I go up and I show them the picture, and they're like, "Oh wow, that actually looks really good," I'm like, "Yeah, see, now you can relax and just
be a little more comfortable."
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So those are the kind of the two ways that we go about doing it.
I love that, because it's a little similar to what I do when I have guests come on the show. If we're not doing a video side of things, sometimes even on the audio side of things, they're nervous. They're, I know, I appreciate you sent me the questions, but it's like, okay, well, we're just going to sit here for maybe 5-10 minutes before I touch anything and just chat with them for a minute, just to get them out of the funk of I'm recording and oh my goodness.
Yes.
Because again, I think it just kind of perpetuates our own problem. We get in our own way, right? So I think again, just having that wherewithal on our side of things, like, well, all right, we can see that they're clamming up a little bit. We can see that things are going. And I think that it's just one of those that I'm glad you allude to that in the program today, because a lot of people, when they look at doing film or they try to do something, they get really discouraged.
They do.
Because I know I've run into a lot of business owners like, oh, I filmed myself doing this thing, and they show it and then they're red in the face because they're like, oh, it was a little corny, or oh, a little embarrassed. And I laugh because I'm like, you want me to do an impression for you or something right now? Because I'll put you at ease if that's what helps. But it's just one of those things that I think from our perspective on the broadcast side of things, that embarrassing thing is kind of just faded away. I always joke that you had pride when you went into broadcast school, you left without it. Oh, yeah, sure. So it's just one of those. I think being able to coach people through that is a talent itself, because again, not everybody can get themselves mentally prepared for that and be ready for that. So credit to Empty Space Studios and yourself for being able to help coach people through that. So if you are one of those, you're a little camera shy, don't worry. You have the trusted professionals to help you out here.
Absolutely.
Now, part of your job, or maybe part of Empty Space Studios, perhaps, that feels like it goes unnoticed, or maybe something behind the scenes that it just never gets the glory it should. What is it?
Yeah, I think one of the things is we don't outsource anything. So we do everything in-house. We have the ability to be basically like a full production studio.
So editing's your answer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, because that's what people don't see. Is the hours and hours and hours spent not only editing, but we shoot on cinema cameras. So there's a lot more work that goes into editing than people just don't realize. And it's not because people just don't know.
Yeah.
If you're not in this world, you don't know that cinema cameras, you can shoot in a log, which means that the picture looks really bad, but it's because you can color grade it a lot better than you would if you didn't do that. And same with audio, like, you can shoot just regular audio and put that over the video, but it elevates it a lot when you add sound effects, when you add like swooshes to different transitions and stuff like that. So that's definitely the behind the scenes, but we have the ability to do kind of everything. Clients can come to us and we can confidently say, oh, hey, what do you need help with? Whatever it is, we should be able to help you out. But definitely the editing is, people just don't see, because at the studio, we do all the editing, we do all the shooting, and they're like, where's the video? And we're like, we've been working on it for many days.
Well, I like making that joke to people because I've heard that back to me as well. It's like, hey, when do we got an estimated time for this? And I've got an editor, fortunately, that does the episodes, so I don't have to edit them, fortunately. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. But that is one thing, especially being in this industry, you and I know just how grueling certain editing processes can be, especially if you have a tougher shoot or if you have a tougher scene that you're trying to frame correctly. Sometimes that cut is really like after hours and hours of work that you see.
Yes.
And I think that is probably the unsung hero of any videography, in my opinion, is because it takes the special eye to see that shot.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can give, there's videos online, you can give 5 different editors the same footage, the same audio and everything, and you get 5 completely different videos.
Exactly.
So it's, and some of them, if you have a really good editor, we're lucky. My brother is a fantastic editor. He's been editing for, since like middle school.
Wow.
He used to edit like video game clips and stuff like that.
Nice.
And so that's how he got into editing. So he's been doing it for a long time. Like even still today, even though I've been editing for years, things that would take me 4 hours would take him an hour, or half an hour, something like that.
Doesn't that just drive you nuts too?
It does, but it's nice that I have him that can do it. Like, oh, Sam, this would take me so long. You could just do it so quick. And he's like, okay,
come on, Sam. What are brothers for?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I've gotten to that point with audio in my life because I remember back in the day when I was cutting a lot of commercials and just doing a lot of voiceover work in general. It got to the point to where I could literally look at the WAV file and tell you where I needed to cut. Oh, yeah. Like, it's weird that you just kind of develop this sense of like, nope, I see it.
It's like playing the piano in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, you can do that with anything you do on a computer, I guess. Like if you're into coding or something like that. Eventually you just get so good. It's just all like muscle memory. But it really just takes experience. Like,
it does.
Years of experience and just every day just editing and to get to that level. does not come quick.
And you gotta love it.
Yeah, you do.
You gotta love that process.
Even when you don't, you gotta act like you do.
Yes, you do. Exactly. That smile, you fake it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%.
Yep, you fake loving that editing until you love it.
Yeah.
That's just old broadcast jokes for sure. But I want to know, for you, your brother, and your co-partner here, Phil, Empty Space Studios, roughly just about a little over a year now officially into things. I'm just kind of curious, what's some of the best parts about running and growing Empty Space Studios? And what do you think has kind of been one of your biggest challenges you've kind of met head on?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who owns a business will tell you that it's tough.
Yeah.
It's especially kind of going up from the ground up. It's a lot of meeting people. A lot of connections, a lot of coffee, a lot of happy hours, which are great. But that's like, it's kind of the hardest, but also one of the most rewarding parts is meeting people and just seeing those connections grow and grow and grow. It really is true that it's who you know, it's not really what you know. You do have to know what you're doing, but of course, one connection can easily lead to 3, 5, so many more connections, and so it kind of just branches out more and more. And so that's one of the fun parts of growing that business, is meeting with all these people, getting to learn different fields, getting to meet and just people who we would have never met otherwise, getting to know like the people behind companies that we've known in Omaha for our whole lives. That's been really cool. The challenging part is definitely, when you're self-employed, you have to provide, you make the money for yourself.
Got to make sure your paycheck's there.
Exactly.
Right? So
that's the tricky part. But it all kind of will eventually, if you work at it hard enough, it will fall into place.
Right.
It takes a while. If we didn't have what we had, like we started very well because we've been doing it part-time for many years.
Right.
If we didn't have that, it would have been a lot tougher. We wouldn't have been able to grow this much within a year if we didn't have that base and, the equipment, all that stuff. If you just hopped into it and had to learn everything, it takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely one of those that I remember, just to kind of put it into perspective. I remember going into broadcast school day one thinking, I'm just talking. All I got to do is just talk and I'm fine. And I remember the very first sentence out of my teacher's mouth was, if you think you're just here to listen to music or talk, you're wrong.
Okay.
And so I kind of laughed. I'm like, why? And he goes, tell me what voice and diction is.
Oh, sure.
And I went, he goes, okay, tell me what voice inflection is. I'm like, none of these things made sense to me as a kid, obviously. But one of those things, once you have the experience, you've gone through that process, you know what to do, what to look for. Everything else just kind of falls into place, especially when you start putting it in a professional setting.
It does. Yes, and absolutely.
It's just kind of fun to kind of think about, like, man, I was so bad. And now we're so good.
Oh, yeah. We've looked back at projects we used to do. Like our first wedding video we did. Yeah. We just looked back at that a couple weeks ago and we were like, wow, they were happy with this.
Fortunately, it was free for them.
Yeah, that's we justified it that way. We were like, hey, they didn't pay for this. So, but it's a learning experience. Yeah. And it won't stop. It's going to be constant.
Every job's going to be different.
Oh, yeah.
That was always the lovely part about broadcasting. I mean, I say lovely with both a double-edged sword on that part of things, because yes, lovely in the sense it can be very awesome, very unique, and very cool.
Yeah.
It can also be lovely in the sense that you have now hours of editing in front of you because you couldn't get a good sentence out of somebody.
Sure. Yeah.
So, no, I definitely love, obviously, the videography side of things and just the broadcast business in general. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious, what's something you feel is kind of just a major pride point for maybe you or Empty Space Studios in general? Either that be with the video or the photography side of things.
Definitely the thing that kind of separates us as well from other videography companies or just photographers in Omaha is our filmmaking background.
Yeah.
Too, because we've been fortunate. In high school we connected with the founders of the Omaha Film Festival, and we've had 4 or 5 short films in there throughout the years. We even have one in a little bit.
I need an applause button.
Well, but it's a great festival.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the filmmaking is the end goal. We've been working on a couple projects. One in particular it's a screenplay that we've been working on. It's been done for probably about a year and a half or so. So we've been trying to get into production, but it's very hard. You really just, the money is the hardest part. You need
always.
Yeah, it for any big project, it is. And so especially we want to shoot it locally and stuff. So there's a lot of challenges that come with that. But with all that that script that we wrote, we submitted it into, I think it was 12 of very prestigious film festivals across the country. And we got awards in 7 of them.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
It was amazing because you can submit. There's thousands of festivals across the country, so you can submit. I've seen, not to play fun with them because they earn it, but
sure,
you can like on YouTube and you'll see a short film that has all these, like literally the whole thing is covered with laurels, which is like when people who don't know, if you get into a film festival, they send you a laurel and it's like a badge or something, kind
of like an accolade.
Yes, that you can put on the thumbnail or you can include in your marketing or something like that.
Gotcha.
And they'll have like 50 of them on the thumbnail. You're like, oh, this must be great. You click on it and it's like,
why did I click on this?
Yeah. And so we didn't want to do that. We wanted to, the ones that we wanted on there, we wanted to be proud of them. Yeah. And so we were fortunate enough to do well in the festival circuit. So it kind of gives you some leverage when you go to executive producers or people who are trying to get money from, as opposed to this random screenplay. Right. It's got some credibility behind it. So with all that, we approach the videography and photography things from, we think, a completely different stance than other photographers and videographers, because we look at everything from the story. Mm-hmm. What problem are they trying to solve and how can we solve that for them, as opposed to, hey, these are the packages we offer, pick one.
Right.
It's like, let's work together, let's figure out how we can help each other. We really like to do that. I like that. That's one of our staples, I guess, if you want to call it.
Which is, I think, a good foundation of a young business to start as well, because then it kind of allows business owners to see like, hey, this is the grand scale op. This is the bare minimum. Here's where we think you need to fit. Mm-hmm. And I think that's helpful to have business owners see that perspective from really grand scale to very, very minor scale.
Definitely. Yes.
Now, if you ever need a big voice guy, I know where to find one.
Oh, yeah. No, there's we always are needing voiceover artists.
Well, hey, look no further. You got your guy.
Yes.
Let me know.
Absolutely.
But one of the fun things about having your own business and growing your own business, you get to tell people like myself and listeners at home what you want us to know more about, either when it comes to Empty Space Studios or maybe about the film industry in general and what we can do to support it.
Yeah, no, definitely the film industry is something that is up and coming, but it seems like it's been up and coming for many years.
Right.
So it's tough. The film industry in Omaha has so much potential, but it's untapped in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the Nebraska Film Commission in May, they're resubmitting. You can resubmit a bunch of projects they're going to take on for. They must have got more film incentives, which they got a couple of years ago. There were a couple feature-length films shot in Fremont because Fremont had film incentives. And if you don't know what that is, it basically means they want things to be shot in Nebraska with part Nebraska crew, like cast and crew.
Right.
And so they'll help fund your project if you're able to meet those guidelines.
Right. It's, it might be a little less on the permit costs. It might be, something along those lines to come shoot here physically.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was in broadcast, this will date me a little bit, when I was in broadcast school, the movie Nebraska was being shot.
Yep.
And that was over in the northeast corner where I was at, and a buddy of mine was from Plainview, where they actually shot a lot of that movie. Was one of the Plainview bars, I'm pretty sure, was where they shot one of the scenes at, and just a very small ruralville town, but kind of cool to understand that, major filmmakers want to be out here, but that was also kind of the pushback that I've read about, is that there's not a lot of incentives in certain areas in Nebraska, and I think to your point, that's the untapped potential. I think our state needs to broaden itself a little bit and maybe take a step back of, hey, what more revenue can we drive in here by offering certain incentives?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's like they are trying,
right,
but it's not really working out. There have been some short or feature films shot in Nebraska. Don't get me wrong, but there could be so many more.
There could be a lot
more.
I'm sorry, but we're a great horror movie state.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Where I'm from in Taylor, Nebraska, is Horrorville, USA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so much. Even the film that we're working on, we could easily make it with an all Nebraska cast and crew, but it's just the money's not there, and it's so hard to, you can go through private investors, but it just takes so much longer, and it's almost not worth it. And so, like the film incentives, we're submitting the film, and we're also working on a short series, like a 7-part series that we're going to submit as well, because
Cool.
they're taking those too.
Very cool.
So we're like, oh, we'll try. Well, how many can we submit? Is it endless? So we'll see how that goes. But I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, because there's just so much potential, you know. It almost takes like one big jump or one big feature to be shot here that's local, like, and to really get the interest that it needs.
I 100% agree, because again, just the part of the state where I'm originally from is Ruralville, USA. We'll just be honest with you. There's more animals than people. Like, it is a village. It's not even a town. Okay. That's how small we are.
Yeah.
But one of the amazing features about being that small is there's only 3 or 4 streetlights. So there's no outside light pollution that affects outside wilderness shots. So you can have some of the best shot night scenes because your stars are just bam out in front.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do a lot of editing work in the background. Yeah. So again, I think you're right. I think there's a really, really big potential for it, but we just got to hit that spark to get it going.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. Now, again, before we wrap up and go into the personal side of things, anything else for the listeners to know, either about Empty Space Studios, about yourself, or maybe just about broadcasting?
Gosh, I think we've hit on pretty much kind of everything that I was thinking of.
You get a couple broadcasts in the room, and I start choking on water. Excuse me. But yeah, into the personal side of questions then, because these are kind of the fun, I call them the dessert of the show.
Sure.
Last thing you get to remember about us. So something that is one of my most hated is winter.
Oh, yeah.
I hate winter. Yeah. I am the guy walking around. Yeah, I know. I'm just like, why do we have it? But I am the guy, summertime, I am Hawaiian shirt, khaki sandals. I'm the dude. I'm just walking around. You know, I love summertime. I love the heat. Now that the air hurts my face, not so much. Yeah. Is there anything in winter that you look forward to?
Gosh, I mean, not a lot. I guess
there's some good winter scenes, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I think everyone would rather have it warm but I think it does bring you closer. Like, we spend a lot more time at home, so
that's fair.
You know, you there's that. You know,
you're forced to be around.
You kind of are. Yeah, you're more forced to be inside and at home, and you know, we watch a lot of movies, and so you know, that's always a plus. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not a big winter guy either. Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But something that is my thing is checking out Omaha. So I'm not originally from Omaha.
Yeah.
Myself, as I've alluded to, I've grown up in rural Nebraska. I later came over here in life. Yeah. So part of this show, which has allowed me a great opportunity to get to know a lot of random Omaha businesses and a lot of local stuff that I never would have even heard of. I'm just curious for you, is there a Mount Rushmore? If I were to come to Omaha, you're like, hey, these places are the places you got to go hit up.
Yeah, no, I think there's so many restaurants in Omaha.
Right, new one every week.
Yeah, so there almost is. And I've only lived here, and so I used to bartend, and people would come in from out of town, and they would say, "Oh wow, there's so many restaurants here," and I'm like, are there not this many restaurants in other cities? And apparently there's not.
Apparently not.
And so there's so many good ones. Jams is a really good one.
Jams,
if you haven't been there, that's great. We like pitch a lot, but there's so many good ones. There's this it's a Japanese place. I can't remember the name. My wife always makes fun of me because I always say the wrong one. So I don't want to say the wrong one, but it's right across from Westside High School. It's in like that plaza. And it's on the front part of it.
I know. I'm trying to think of what's over there too.
It's amazing. It's like a very authentic Japanese restaurant.
Yeah.
But also like a little bit American. But a lot of Japanese culture and American culture kind of cross.
Yeah.
It's very good. One of the best places I've been ever. And so we've gone there a couple of times. It's kind of small, so you got to go like I think they take reservations. So I recommend doing a reservation or going like on a weekday or something like that.
Nice.
But it's very good. But other than that, I think one of the underlooked things that we have gained a lot of support and knowledge from is the Omaha Film Festival.
Yeah.
That's if no one's ever been to that, if you haven't been to that, I think people think that, oh, it's kind of nerdy and
it's the artsy thing.
It's the yeah, you know what I mean? So, but it's a very not a tight community, but it is.
Yeah.
But we're always so welcome to new people to join, or just even if you're not into filmmaking, I think you'd be surprised by how much you would enjoy the Omaha Film Festival. It's every year. It's usually in March. They probably have the dates already on their website. You can Google them. But we've been shooting behind the scenes for Omaha Film Festival for 7 or 8 years or something like that.
Very cool.
So we really got a good understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, and they put a lot of effort into it. Pretty much all year it takes to put it on.
Yeah.
And so it's a great event. If you've never been to it, it's multiple days. I highly recommend checking that out too.
It's definitely worth a weekend out.
Definitely. Or just one trip out. Yeah. If you can even buy like an all-day pass, and you can see so many indie films. And once you look at films that don't have like multi-$100 budgets, you look at film and movies in a different way.
Very much so.
Like right now, Wicked and Red One are out. And those are huge productions. I mean, multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars, thousands of cast and crew members. They're great, but you can slash the budget and by 1% of the budget and make some really incredible art that they're able to display at these festivals. So I would highly recommend. If anyone hasn't been to that, check it out.
Absolutely. And I think just kind of one of those things, I think it's something in Omaha that it's one of those things, like we have the CWS, we have the zoo, we have all these different points of the year to kind of do things. Mm-hmm. Omaha Film Festival is kind of like that springtime event of like, hey, we're starting to thaw out for the winter. Come hang out, come be social again, Yeah, and I think it is a really cool experience for people to at least come see for a day, like you said. It's very interesting, very cool to kind of take in.
Yeah, very much. I would give it a chance.
Absolutely.
If you've never done it.
Absolutely. Now, kind of alluded to it with the Omaha Film Festival. Was there anything else in Omaha that you wish either more people knew about or supported more, like any nonprofits or anything like that? But the Omaha Film Festival is one to make mention for.
It is, definitely. Yeah, it's a nonprofit. They put a ton of effort into it and work into it every year. I think it's ranked one of the top 50 film festivals in the country or something like that.
It's up there.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very, very worth going. We've met, and if you are into film, if you're listening to this because you're into film, we've met more people there than anywhere else to make film connections. Each year we meet more producers or executive producers, and it's scary at first to go up and talk to people, because we film the Q&As at the end of the showings, and another thing to mention is that for a lot of the showings they have the filmmakers actually come to the showing, and then they'll do a Q&A afterwards. Mm-hmm. And so you get to ask them, like the person who made the film, you get to ask them all these questions. And so afterwards we try and go up to them and talk to them and kind of tell them what we're doing and ask them what they're doing next and advice and stuff like that. But it's scary, but once you get used to it, it's awesome. Like you meet people you would never meet before, and people come from all over the country come to the Omaha Film Festival.
Right.
So yeah, that's I guess another shout out to the
Omaha Film Festival, because I think it's just a worthwhile cause, and I think it's definitely something that I feel doesn't get as much support as it could.
Yes,
especially
absolutely.
Being that Omaha is one of those really supportive communities. Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes maybe it just like we had alluded, it gets too labeled as like the artsy or the what have you.
Yeah.
But it's a very cool, very fun event for everybody.
Yeah, and they make it really easy to, like, if you were to make a short film and submit it, a lot of them get accepted. And so then you can see your short film
pretty cool.
on the big screen, in front of an audience. It's just a really amazing experience. And because they have them at blocks, like on their website, you can go and it says like, short film block 1 or short film block 2, and then also just have Nebraska short film blocks. So you can go to this block and just see Nebraska short films.
Ones.
Yeah. And so
cool.
then they'll have feature films. They do like animation blocks, documentary blocks. Also, there's kind of something for everyone there. So I highly recommend it.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely on my radar for this next year as well. Again, not being a native of Omaha, I have not had the chance to partake because last year I got very sick.
Oh, no.
And it was like right during the weekend. I was like, oh, great. We're not going anywhere.
Next year.
So, yes, this year is the year. So I've got it on my calendar for sure.
Yeah, we'll be there.
And I'll be looking for you. That's for sure. Now, before we wrap everything up, I know that's kind of my last questions I had for you. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners here today?
Gosh, I think we hit on so much.
Yeah.
I just really appreciate you having me on, Dylan. It's been great to get to know you, and I'm excited to see what comes of this. And I just appreciate it a lot.
Likewise, the opportunity and the pleasure are mine because, again, I get to learn about a very local business, a very young local business, as something I care about as well in the broadcast field. Do whatever I can to help promote it. So
awesome.
Thanks again for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know we're kind of pushing the end of the day here on this one.
That's all right.
Yeah, I wanted to get the word out here because, again, Empty Space Studios, we are sitting down with Seth Bench, co-owner. His twin brother, Sam, don't confuse him. I would say one wears glasses, but I've been told that's wrong.
He does. He wears contacts every so often. Once you know us for like a little bit, you'll be able to tell us apart. Yeah, it is tough at first, but we do our hair a little bit differently. He has glasses most of the time. So that's kind of how you can tell us apart for the most part.
I'm too much of a radio guy for this, because if I had a twin brother, I would dress like him just to mess with everybody else. Yeah. And just look exactly, just for everybody else's agony.
Yeah. We used to be able to do that. Now we look just enough apart where people can kind of tell us if they know us like
right. And they're sitting there, wait a minute, do you guys like switch shirts or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I love that. So Seth, again, huge thanks for taking some time coming onto the show today.
No, thank you.
Listeners, again, huge thanks to you for tuning into the UIA Trusted Partners podcast. Of course, we'll have more coming up next time.